All children start their school careers with sparkling imaginations, fertile minds, and a willingness to take risks with what they think. Roblox gives builders the tools and freedom to put their imaginations into action. When I want an opinion, I'll get it from my peers, from men of vision, like our great railroad builders, Stanford, Huntington, Dinsmore, fellows with imaginations broad enough to span the continent. If you find yourself caring about old stories and regret the ways in which they slip out of reach of young audiences, you may well conjure up the means to put these tales into young people's imaginations. It's because I'm a feminist that I can't stand women limiting other women's imaginations. It really makes me angry. Our religious belief usurps the place of our sensations, our imaginations of our judgment. We no longer look to actions, trace their consequences, and then deduce the rule. We first make the rule, and then, right or wrong, force the action to square with it. Many children are natural fantasists, I think, perhaps because their imaginations have yet to be clobbered into submission by experience. I think human beings will always still really enjoy using our imaginations, and Fringe allows you to do that. It's slightly scary and believable. There just might be an alternate universe. There just might be people on the other side that are like us, living a different life. Unless you're living on the street and surviving on a diet of discarded turkey drumsticks, there's no point in being gloomy. We've spent too long trying to cheer ourselves up by spending money on brightly colored things we don't really need. We've stopped using our imaginations. Teenagers are in some ways the best readers because their imaginations haven't been narrowed down by boring things like jobs and the realities of money and capitalism. I think often in film we limit our imaginations a little, well, quite a lot. Actually, things get quite formulaic. Certainly, for younger guys, Superman is this mythological character that they've thought about and explored in their imaginations. But one thing I really like about Superman fans is that they're so open-minded and excited and honest. There's something beautiful about their enjoyment of it, something very Superman-like. Haiti is not a world aside, a world apart. Culture and imaginations have always been part of our rebirth. The imaginations of believers have dressed up and exaggerated the excellence of the style and matter of the New Testament generally, in the same manner, in which they have the moral instructions of Jesus. Mr. Selfridge is a lot more accessible than shows like Downton. Everyone knows the store, but not everyone knows the story. Having this store as the backdrop with all of society working under one roof, I think it really captures people's imaginations. The imaginations which people have of one another are the solid facts of society. Many in the creative professions were nerds in their pasts because they spent so long reading comics and using their imaginations when they were growing up. I always liked the visuals to be choice and at the same time minimalist. And, I love black boxes. After all, that's what theater is, it's an empty space, and it's both limited and unlimited because the space is the space. But what you can do with people's imaginations is really endless. The scientists often have more unfettered imaginations than current philosophers do. Relativity theory came as a complete surprise to philosophers, and so did quantum mechanics, and so did other things. In all of my work I'm trying to create a dialogue, in which I want to provoke the recipients, stimulate them to use their own imaginations. I don't just say things recipients want to hear, flatter their egos or comfort them by agreeing with them. I have to provoke them, to take them as seriously as I take myself. Our imaginations are strong as children. Sometimes they get shoved aside, these imaginations. They get dusty and mildewed with age. The imagination is a muscle that has to be put to use or it shrivels. I think that art has the ability to capture people's imaginations and make them think that more is possible. The Jungian view of drama would be that it affects all of our imaginations and somehow taps into our hidden, ancient, primordial memories. What I like in this job is you can travel to many places, many imaginations. One thinks of toys and play as an area of great novelty and potentiality where all sorts of responses can be developed. The fact that adults are allowing their imaginations to have activity through toy kinds of objects is a further reflection of the belief in the imagination of the adult mind. Writers and painters alike are in the business of consulting their own imaginations, and stimulating the imaginations of others. Together, and separately, they celebrate the absolute mystery of otherness. As a former high school teacher and a student in a class of 60 urchins at St. Brigid's Grammar School, I know that education is all about discipline and motivation. Disadvantaged students need extra attention, a stable school environment, and enough teacher creativity to stimulate their imaginations. Those things are not expensive. People who work with me think I should cut my hair. They say casting directors are less likely to hire me with long hair, that they don't have imaginations and can't picture me looking normal. People literally have conference calls about my head when I'm not around. I mean, obviously I would cut my hair for an amazing part. I always believe it's better to have 30 imaginations working on a project, rather than one imagination telling the other 29 what to do. What wild imaginations one forms where dear self is concerned, how sure to be mistaken. Instead of establishing facts, we have to overthrow errors. Instead of ascertaining what is, we have to chase from our imaginations what is not. We have to instill in them the skills they need to succeed at a young age and open up their imaginations to the very real opportunities they can be afforded if they put their minds to it. I like trying to make sounds that are interesting and are a bit weird. I try to make music that captures people's imaginations. Imagine a world, if you will, where crime does not exist. A startling proposition that seems outlandish, but our imaginations, of course, need not be bounded by the rules and restrictions imposed by realism. It would be a world, one might suppose, where equality reigned, where the thought of violence was so alien that it need not be practiced. I was very fortunate that my first novel captivated the imaginations of so many readers who asked for a sequel. After that, one book led to another as I discovered other facets to my characters I wanted to investigate further. The domestic lives we live, which may be accidental, or not entirely of our making, help to make possible our writing lives. Our imaginations are freed, or stimulated, by the very prospect of companionship. Quiet, a predictable and consoling routine. Little men with little minds and little imaginations go through life in little ruts, smugly resisting all changes which would jar their little worlds. Digital imaging allows both groups to rise above the limitations of mess and clutter and mechanics, and apply our talents to creating images limited only by our imaginations. Pop music can get inside us and enter our memory bubbles. It provides those true Proustian moments, unlocking sensations, unlocking our imaginations. Music inspired me as a filmmaker. I spent my childhood in an imaginary world, probably because I needed an escape. I think that's one of the reasons people have imaginations, because they can't maintain existence here. Dwight Eisenhower warned American citizens at the end of his presidency about the implications of the military-industrial complex and its influence over government. We have now gone well beyond any of the wildest imaginations that could have entered Eisenhower's mind. I am pretty sure that all young human beings have, at one time or another in their growing up, been actors. They have used their imaginations to carry them away from painful or confusing situations. Have imagined themselves to be more powerful or beautiful or brave or loving than they are. I believe that we have the ability to change our lives using our imaginations. Imagination is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. On a radio drama, I'd like to feel that I had just as much chance of playing Mr. Darcy as anyone else because I can sound like him. Yet many radio producers find it very difficult to extend their imaginations to employing anyone who's non-white. The desire of God's heart is immeasurably larger than our imaginations can conjure. The entertainment medium of film is particularly tuned to the present imaginations of people at large. A lot of fiction is intensely nostalgic. When I was a kid, we had to rely on our imaginations for entertainment. Agents and producers have to get you into a box to accommodate their limited imaginations. We don't have a lot of space in our imaginations to allow people to expand what they do. It is often said that men are ruled by their imaginations, but it would be truer to say they are governed by the weakness of their imaginations. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.